Just waiting for people. Well, hmm, 1, 3. Really? Hmm. Technical difficulties. Okay, so I guess I'll just start. Hello everyone, the Alyssa Harka here. I'm here to talk to you all today. I guess about I Love You, Phillp Morris, one of Jim Carrey's great movies. I know he has many great movies, especially the Sonic movies that he's done. But basically, he did it with Evan McGuire, great actor, great actor. I know he was also in Into the Woods. I've not watched it, but I know that it is a great Halloween movie. If anybody wants to check it out, I think I have it on DVD, but that's a fact. Um, basically, it's an LGBTQ movie. I get there's a lot of people that don't get LGBTQ or get gay and lesbian couples, but that's the fact. Basically, what it is about Jim Carrey playing Stephen Russell. I don't remember for saying. So Stephen Russell is known for being a notorious liar. What that means, he can come up with either a truth and then leading into a lie. So basically, he lies to manipulate those either from leaving him or staying with him. Basically, they end up leaving him instead of staying with him. So basically, that's the problem with him because all his life he wanted a partner to stay with him. He wanted somebody to take care of him from them. Ended up leaving him, and that was his biggest fear. That his wife would leave him, his partner Jimmy would leave him, and then of course Phillp ended up leaving him. So that was his biggest problem. His other biggest problem was that he had a kid with his first wife, and then awesome. Thank you. Had kid with his first wife. I forget her name. That's a fact. And she was so religious. She always was with the Catholic faith, what a lot of people are like me. And she was always trying to protect him. Her was definitely almost forgot. Whatever. And she was always trying to help. She was always trying to be, Miss Protector, Miss Everything, and he didn't really, I guess, care for all of that. So I think that was the biggest problem. And so he went and did what he did with men. And so he became gay. And so basically he had his boyfriend named Jimmy and everything was going great with them until Jimmy got AIDS. AIDS is a major disease for a lot of gay men, and I think that is the biggest problem, because they have this disease they can get, from a lot of sex, and I think that is the biggest problem with a lot of people if they don't be careful. So, yeah, that's one thing. So, yeah, that's one thing I think they're trying to figure out. So, yeah, that's one thing. And then two, they just have a lot of problems. Yeah. So basically, that's the gist of that. And then, Phillp Morris, he meets later in prison. Hold on a second. Are you? Where is that? So yeah, Phillp Morris he meets in prison while he's dealing with all his stress he's dealing with, and basically he did a lot of stuff you never should do. Like credit card stealing. I think there's a word for it. Credit card fraud. I call it credit card still must be credit card fraud. And he did more than just that. I mean, he was a notorious liar. He was notorious everything. And basically, he had this job at NASA, but they made him like the chief financial officer, which means he had the most important job there and he could get away with anything, and I repeat, anything. And I think he was just doing that job and hated it because of all the paperwork, a lot of everything. And he found a way to make the job benefit him instead of benefit the other workers and all like that. So he was just playing the game. So he meets Morris and Jill. They fall in love. They have their little romance. And I think the thing that I never understood in the movie, but I understood in the documentary, which you can find on YouTube anywhere or whatever else you find it, I guess, that the prisoner workers, like the people that work in the prison, never bothered to check on the couple that were in love because they were busy taking care of the other prisoners. And they never bothered to check on them. They never bothered to figure out what was going down with those two. Only one time they actually bothered to look after them is when Steve was getting moved to another cell, another prison down the yard or the road or whatever. That was the only dear God time. Other times throughout the movie, they didn't bother with them. They were just, okay, they're there. So what? So he's in this prison cell. So what? They didn't even bother with the crap that Steven was pulling off, when he was in that drag little number, trying to escape and everything. No, for the whole time in the movie, they didn't even care what shit he was doing. And I think they should have, because he was trying to escape. And at the middle end of the movie, then they were actually paying attention. And in the beginning, they were like, fuck him, what he's doing. But, yeah, it was whatever, but it was whatever. But basically, I think the whole problem was that he was doing that. And it was the whole thing. Yeah. But basically, that was it. And they were a couple. I mean, they were a legitimate couple. But, they were a legitimate couple, like I said, now twice, but who cares? And they were who they were. They were 100% who they were. I think the biggest problem for them was that they were two different kinds of people. When I mean two different kinds of people, I mean, you have one that really is trying to escape and find his own life. And you have one that was only in prison because he had an extended use of a rental car. And I'm going to give you a very good example of that in Phillp Morris's case. My mom literally had a van that got into a wreck because of a PSC&G, like one of their vehicles, when they drive around the road to check on things, one of those. And she had a rental car, and she still has a rental car, and it's going to be, brought back when she gets her van back. but you never use the rental car until that extended date. When the extended date comes, you bring it back. I guess what Phillp did is he didn't realize the extended date and kept it too long, and there you go. See, that's the thing. He was only in for that amount of time, and then he had to leave. That was easy. But in Steven's case, he was in there permanently. There was no way of him leaving, maybe, until he died or something. I think he did end up dying, Steven Russell, but that's the point. But, he was in there for the big, long run, like life, baby. Like that movie Life with Eddie Murphy and that other guy. Excuse me. Actor. But basically, they were in there for the long run. It wasn't like, Phillp, he paid his sentence and that was it. But Steven was kind of making it more permanent with, Phillp, if he wanted him to stay for him forever. But that wasn't what Phillp was going for. He wasn't going for the lifelong run or, a permanent stay along with him. No. He wanted to pay his sentence and be done. When Steven wanted was someone to spend his life with, and that wasn't what was going to happen in that movie. Even if everything turned out straight in the beginning, and Steven told, Phillp the God honest truth in the beginning, then maybe there could have been a freaking wedding, but there couldn't have not been. Now, a lot of people say, why wasn't there much of a romance and, more of that? Well, there could have not been because he wasn't perfectly honest. He was not. He was not honest about his relationship. He was not honest about anything he's done in his life. He was honest from day one he met him. He might have been honest that he, was, what he was about a notorious, person. He was honest about that, but he wasn't honest about not being a lawyer. He was not this, he was not that. I could go over all the jumps he said. But he was lying his full head off. I mean, yeah, you think you could have been all those things. Sure, you could have been a lawyer. Sure, you could have been a doctor or whatever you could have been. But still, he lied his ass off. He lied because he felt it was good for him to survive. Oh, it's freaking awesome. My friend's on. Awesome. It's like he lied to believe all this. He lied so he could survive. He lied so that he could keep people to love him. He lied because he had to, my friends. He lied to keep everyone together. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. Maybe it wasn't the best thing to do, but he did it for love. And love is something we all gotta cherish. Love is something we're here for, main people. Love is something I'm here for. Everyone's here for. And I'm sorry this video is taking way too damn long. I'm sorry not late. But basically, I understand what happens between two people. Maybe not two guys, but I understand when it comes to two people that want something from each other. Mom, be quiet. I understand what love actually means. Maybe it wasn't the right thing for, him to do, but it was something that he wanted. He wanted to be a real person. He wanted to be an actual friend to him. And the fact that he couldn't be a real person. And at the end of the movie, he was like, I just want to be the Steven Russell you can love and not a fake. He was trying to be the real man for him, a real lover. And he couldn't be. He just couldn't be the man he wanted. And that killed the both of them. And I think to this day they're both kind of around. I'm not sure on all the details about their relationship, if there even is one. But still, it's worth fighting for. If you love somebody, fight for it. It's plain and simple. Because that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to fight for somebody. He knew they could never last, but he was fighting for it. Plain and simple. I know so many people that do not fight for what they want or stand up for what they want. when it comes to marriage, when it comes to anything. And that is his biggest fear. I think his biggest fear was being alone. His a fear of not being loved, his fear of his mother in the movie, he was like, why did she abandon him and keep her other kids? I think her fear that they never mentioned was that he was this way, probably growing up. He was different, and she knew that the troublemaking and everything would lead to that. So she had to give him away. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, but you don't want to go down that road. So I think that was the biggest thing they didn't mention in the movie, but they mentioned in the documentary, and it's sad, but it's true. It's sad that she did it. It's hurtful that she did it, but come on. You really want to grow up in a house like that? No, you don't. So basically, that's my rant on I Love You, Phillp Morris. I could go on forever about this movie. I originally watched it so many times by myself or with my other friends like Serena Moreland. Shout out to you, girl. But basically, the movie is just great. It's great because it teaches you things about life. Life is horrible sometimes. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's sucks. Sometimes it doesn't. But in the end, we're still here. In the end, we are still physically and mentally here. And sometimes it may be hard. Sometimes it may suck. Sometimes you want to bury yourself next to Michael Bolton. Even though you don't and he's still around, sometimes you just want to lay next to him. But you don't. Because he's married. But otherwise, you live on. You live on and remember there's still some good about this life. So that's my rant. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you. God bless. I love Michael Bolton.